You're watching Virginia This Morning.
And welcome back. You know, most married couples do merge their financial resources, but what happens if you get divorced? Richmond financial expert J.B. Bryan back with us to pass along some great advice to help us avoid costly mistakes when a marriage comes apart. Good to see you, J.B.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yes,
it's good to see
the
you,
uncoupling.
Cheryl.
Good to see you. Well, let's
That's
go
right.
all the way back to the beginning before you get married.
Okay.
A lot of people have to plan their finances, and when you're in a marriage, you have to kind of know where everything is. So, prenuptial agreement, good idea?
Well, personally, I don't believe in them, but I do believe in doing credit checks before. So I think that the best way to develop a secure and hopefully a marriage that will not end in divorce is to do credit reports. Have good communication, like our love and money discussion that we had about getting engaged and what you should talk about financially, and it's still on your website.
Right.
That we should make sure that you're very open about all the debts and things that are already going on as you begin the marriage, because unfortunately, financial issues are a big problem. I guess if we research divorce and why people break up, financial issues would be among the
Money's
top
probably number
reasons.
one.
Yes.
And then when you're in a marriage, you shouldn't be ignorant about the finances that is going on within the family. You should know where everything is.
So true. Even in terms of death, I've seen a lot of people at time of death, and I meet them, and they had no idea about where to pay the mortgage and things like that. So definitely, we don't know when a marriage is going to end. You don't know when someone's going to pass. So these are some very important things to do, as you said, that we need to know who is holding the mortgage, how much is owed on the mortgage, you know,
Where all the bank accounts are, where the life insurance policies are.
And I do a teleconference on what paperwork we need to have and how to get it organized.
All right, the marriage comes apart, and sometimes it's not such a friendly uncoupling. Where do we start in trying to divide the finances?
I think it's very important to make sure that it is friendly. You know, to agree to disagree, but to know that the least amount of emotion that we have involved, and that could be looked at as a first or final final step, but that we need to make sure that we're looking at things financially and not emotionally, that the couple knows that if you make sure that you focus on, we could save each other a lot of money and keep a lot of things in our own pockets if we talk these things through.
A lot of times the biggest asset a couple is dividing is their home.
Very good point. And many times there will be a decision made on who is going to keep that asset. And when and there'll even be arguments, you know, about who is going to keep that asset. But generally, the person who wants to keep the asset, in a lot of situations, they don't even know what the asset is worth.
Or
So,
whether they can afford it.
most important, they don't. And so sometimes they'll fight to keep that particular asset, to keep the home, and then they cannot afford to keep the home because they think the home is just a payment. But a home involves making sure that you can maintain it, that you can pay the taxes, that you can insure it, that you can take care of utilities in that home. So very good point that if you're fighting for an asset, and I hate to use that word fighting, but if you're deciding on an asset and who's going to keep something, a big asset like a home, and it has a mortgage on it, make sure you know the value, the true value of that asset, or is it not worth anything? Because you may owe more on it than what the current market value is.
May not want to keep it.
You may have to decide on how you're going to get
Disperse
together
of it.
and sell it.
A divorce is an eye-opening situation. You have to come to a lot of realizations, and one of those realizations might be that your lifestyle is going to change.
And according to research, typically it is women whose lifestyle changes the most after a divorce. And that's changing a lot. A lot of women are indeed the breadwinner, the highest income, but not, they're still, women typically are not the major moneymaker for the household. So during a divorce, the woman in that situation would need to understand that how my lifestyle is going to change. They need to take seriously their financial future, and the man as well, because retirement assets become a big issue at that time, and
Because those get divided.
That's right.
Generally speaking,
That's
they get
right.
divided.
And any retirement assets that are accumulated during the marriage could be subject to division.
They become part of the entire division of property. Expert advice sometimes helps a lot when you're trying to decide things like this. Maybe a mediator to help decide, and then a financial advisor to help assess.
It is amazing to me that people go through divorce and never speak with a financial professional. And I think that most of the things that become the biggest issue and the biggest legal drain are financial issues. And I think that those could be solved a lot with a mediator, or financial advisor. And we need to really calm down if we have viewers that are in that situation, and think very carefully about the true financial picture and what assets you have and what is the cost basis on these assets and what are the liabilities involved and the tax consequences. There's some couples going through divorce that have tax bills with the IRS, and they need to decide on how the IRS is going to get their money back, and because it is a joint debt. If you did the joint return, the IRS sees it as a joint debt. So that might be something that needs to be discussed in the legal proceedings, definitely. But we need to make sure that everyone that's watching the show that might be in that situation, that they take the time to talk, if they can, about how we can save money and how we can make sure that we develop a good picture of what we have, how we're going to continue to pay our bills, and you specifically, that you need to think about how your financial picture is going to change.
Unfortunately, this is the time, or fortunately, that you have to, maybe the expert can help you take the emotion out of the separation, because that's the business part of the proposition, and not the emotional part.
Yes, and when we're sitting as financial professionals doing a financial plan, and make sure you're working with a financial professional that is familiar with the legalities and the financial issues of divorce. And there's even people out there that they only focus on divorce in their financial practice. But you need a financial plan that will show you this is the worst case scenario and this is the best case scenario of what could come out of this. And maybe after you do all of this together, you might decide that we can work this out.
Might want to. JB Bryan, thank you so much. If you want to know more about this topic or any money topic, JB offers a free financial workshop every Wednesday at noon at 4860 Cox Road, Suite 200 in Glen Allen. Just go to our website for a link to more information, or if you'd like to register for the next or an upcoming seminar.